Welcome back to Muppets in Space, a Farscape rewatch podcast on the Incomparable. Tonight we'll be covering Season 2, Episode 17, The Ugly Truth, and Episode 18, A Clockwork Nebari. I'm your host, Eric Scott, and joining me as always, my fellow co-host, someone who's just back from a nice mental cleansing, or maybe that was a juice cleanse, Jason Johnson.
Like, totally, man. It was completely for the greater good.
Far out, man. Great.
Yeah.
We'll get into more of that later. But yeah, if you've been wondering where we've been for like the last, month or so, it's been a crazy couple weeks for at least me at work, Jason a little bit
And
too.
me.
Yeah. So it's been a little bit, but things are calming down. Well, kind of. So we apologize to our 7 or 8 listeners out there, but we're back.
Are we up that high now? Awesome.
It was 6. I figured at this point maybe he's got one more, so I put 7. Just
A rounding error.
figure we're almost halfway done as we talked about earlier. So yeah, maybe we got another couple listeners on here.
I'll take it.
Me too. All right, so we got a really long recap for this next one, so I guess we'll just jump on into it.
Strap in and hold on.
Yeah, because we got a lot of the same stuff, but slightly different. So see if you can spot the differences as we go here.
Circle the one that doesn't belong.
That's right. One of these things is not like the other, right? That's what Sesame Street taught us back. Anyway.
Let's not think about how far back that was.
Well, it's also Muppets, but anyway. Muppets all the way down. All right, Season 2, Episode 17, The Ugly Truth. We open with Aaron arriving on Talyn, unarmed, as Crais requested, with the others waiting in the transport pod. Crais removes his neural transponder, so he's defenseless as well. Back on Moya, Pilot tells Rigel and Chiana that Talyn has grown really big. He's a big boy now, and he's telling Moya that he's happy and Crais is not mistreating him. Back on Talyn, Crichton enters with Dargo, Zan, and Stark, who's still around. Crais says that he's called a truce. He recalls Stark from their encounter on the Gamic base, and then kind of ignores him, and says that Talyn is becoming more aggressive, and Moya's crew must help him disarm the ship. Meanwhile, back on Moya, Rigel asks Chiana why it must be taking so long since they've been gone for ages. Pilot detects another vessel approaching fast, a Plocavian ship, which he says is bad news. Chiana and Rigel watch as Talyn fires his main cannon and destroys it. Oops.
I'm sure that's not important.
Yeah, we'll get into that later. It's a one-off. No. He stopped talking to Moya, and another Plocavian ship is approaching. The others are returning in the transport pod, and Talyn starbursts away. The second Plocavian ship gets hold of the pod and draws it inwards, and everyone aboard is knocked unconscious.
Dun dun dun.
Fade to black or opening credits or whatever. The crew wakes up in a dark chamber with only one raised platform in the center, but Aaron is not there. Dargo, as always, grabs Stark by the throat, saying it's all his fault, but Crichton says, nah, cut it out. Aaron is being interrogated and telling the Plocavians that nobody's responsible for the destruction of their other ship. Talyn couldn't have fired alone as the overrides were in place, and Crais was nowhere near the console. She said that if he wanted to blame Crais, it would be easy to, since he fled. They think that she's still lying to protect them, and they want her to tell her whole story without lies from when the others entered. So we have a kind of a flashback to Aaron's story, where she says that Crais is asking them for help in disarming Talyn, as he plans to trade weapons for a non-lethal dampening net that will simply immobilize ships rather than destroy them. He plans to acquire it from the Plocavians, who Stark calls a dangerous race that builds weapons. Dargo thinks that's a lie, but Aaron says to hear him out. Crichton tells her to leave Dargo alone, but Zan agrees that Crais has a point. Aaron says that they have to oversee the installation, and thinks Talyn will agree if she says it's okay. Crais needs their help and Moya's help to convince Talyn, but Dargo says he won't be a part of it, and Crichton also has a problem with it. Crais says, what's the big deal? It's a simple transaction, but Zan says she's not so sure and will have to think it over, maybe even by meditating. Dargo says, enough thinking, he wants to kill Crais. Surprise. Crichton agrees. Surprise again.
Surprise.
But Aaron says that won't help anything. Crais agrees and says that he can't even convince Talyn to only use weapons as a last resort. Crichton and Dargo don't want to trust Crais still, but he says that he's only ever used Talyn's power in self-defense. Then Zan pipes in saying that was true with the encounter with the Halosians from several episodes ago, but Crichton still isn't buying it. Just then, Crais detects a Plocavian ship arriving and tells them that the privacy mode is engaged, so Talyn can't do anything. Aaron comments that that ship is heavily armed, and Stark suggests raising the defense screen, but Aaron stops him, saying that that might be interpreted as an act of aggression. The Plocavian calms Talyn and asks Crais if there's a problem, and he says no, but he wants to discuss the terms of their agreement. When suddenly Talyn's gun fires and destroys the Plocavian vessel. Crais asks who did it, and Aaron says nobody did it. Crais screams at them to leave, and despite Aaron's objections, they drag her away. Back on Moya, Chiana finds Rigel looking for food, as you do. He's supposed to be negotiating with the Plocavians, but apparently they won't talk to him. Moya decides then that their presence there will not change the current situation, and she leaves in search of Talyn.
As she tends to do.
Yep. And off we go with that subplot. Back on the other ship, Erin's returned to the group, and Crichton asks where she's been. She says she was questioned, and all of them will be eventually, and they shouldn't lie, as lying will get them executed. Crichton hugs her and whispers to her to play along, as Zan is called. Erin tells Crichton that said nobody was responsible. It's the only story she could come up with, but Zan is gone before she can hear that. So Zan's story is completely different than Erin's story, since she didn't get that memo, as you might expect. Yeah, some of it's the same, but some of it's way different. For instance,
Whatever do you mean?
Yeah. For instance, Zan tells Stark that the Placavians are technologically advanced and strong believers of justice. Good sucking up to them. Darker says that Crais must want to exchange the dampening net for Talyn's main cannon, which Crais says has been malfunctioning lately.
Really?
Crichton says he doesn't trust Crais, and Crais says that it pains him deeply that he has not forgiven him for his past misdeeds, and offers to let him supervise the installation by himself. Dargo does not want Crais to make the exchange for the dampening net, and Crichton agrees. But Stark says the dampening net is just what Talyn needs, and Dargo tells Crais if he's lying, he'll break his neck. Crais just says simply he wants to help Talyn, and it's been hard to talk him into using weapons only in defense. Erin says that she'll teach him to behave, but Crais says to trust him. He's only used Talyn's weapons in self-defense. And like before, Zan brings up the encounter with the Helosians, which Crais says demonstrates his good intentions. He could have destroyed the ship, but he didn't. The Placavians arrive and speak to Crais, and Zan and Stark talk about the beauty of their ship. Okay.
Stark seems really nice.
I know, everybody's so nice in the story, and not argumentative. Talyn then raises his cannon, and Aaron says the weapons console malfunctioned. Crichton goes to disarm it, but Aaron stops him, saying that he might set it off. The cannon fires, destroying the Placavian ship. Zan says that Talyn and Crais should have been here when the authorities arrived, but he forces them to leave. So, flashback over, Zan tells the Placavians that they could do nothing, so they boarded the transport and were then captured. Zan is returned to the group and says to the others that she told the Placavians what she saw when Dargo tells Stark that if he doesn't do the same thing, they'll all die. Stark gets called and says that he didn't believe Crais only wanted the dampening net, that the reformed Crais is just an act. He's power mad. And Crichton didn't believe his story either. Stark's story is different again from everybody else's story.
Well, he only has one eye, so he saw it a little differently.
Yeah, that mask kind of blocks the depth perception. So Stark tells him that Crais says that Talyn's not listening to him, and Aaron says that's good for Talyn. Zan says that his control isn't absolute as he thought. Dargo says just give the word and he'll break Crais' neck. Okay, so that's the same. Crais then says that Talyn needs him and chose him, but Aaron says perhaps they should override that choice. Crais pleads his case that he's not misused Talyn's power, he's only fired in self-defense. Zan again brings up the Helosian encounter, and Crais says they attacked and he spared them, he's not a killer. Crichton says that won't help, but Crais says they'll regret it. The Placavians arrive, but Crais tells them the deal's off and fires Talyn's cannon, destroying the ship.
Not Crais.
Yeah. So who shot who? Stark.
Han.
Yeah. Stark tells the Placavians that they're covering for Crais to protect Talyn. He doesn't care for Talyn as much as the others do. Back in the B-plot, on Moya, Chiana and Radul are concerned since they can't find Talyn, and Pilot gets annoyed at Chiana for questioning Moya's decision to pursue Talyn. Back on the other ship, Dargo is pacing back and forth, and Crichton tries to cheer him up as Stark comes back. The Placavians say the testimonies don't correspond, and unless they hear the truth, all of them will be executed. As you might expect, Dargo attacks Stark. Again, this time knocking his mask off and revealing his energy that it covers. Zan just barely catches the mask before it falls off the edge of the platform into who knows where. She returns it to Stark, and Aaron tells Dargo that that did not help anything. Now it's Dargo's turn, and he's called away and says he will tell the Placavians what he saw. Let's see if that's anywhere near anybody else's story.
I'm sure it's exactly the same.
Yeah, because it's the same perspective. Everybody talks the same. So in Dargo's version, Dargo asks who the Placavians are, and Stark says that they're barbarians, murderers, builders of horrific weapons. They're savages. Dargo then tells the Placavians that Aaron stepped in to defend Crais. Aaron tells Dargo that Crais only wants the dampening net, but Dargo says he thinks that Crais wants to equip Talyn with more deadly weapons. Crichton agrees, and the others all stand behind Dargo, because in this version, all the crew seem to regard Dargo as the leader. Crais denies the allegation, and Stark calls for them to leave. Crais says that they can't because he needs their help. Dargo says that he will not be a party to this, and Stark says that they must stop the Placavians. They're evil, and help enslave worlds, including his. Crais says that this will help Talyn, but Dargo says that they'll only help by breaking Crais' neck. So that's consistent. Crichton agrees too, again, consistent. But Zan says that violence will not solve the problem. Crais says that Talyn... Yeah, well, who knows? That's debatable. Crais says that Talyn needs his guidance. Dargo says, no, you mean control. But Aaron says she can help if they let her. Dargo says that Crais wants to use the power for himself, but he says he only used it in self-defense. Zan again mentions that he did stop Talyn in the Halosian encounter when the Placlavians arrive. Stark is really adamant that they shouldn't deal with them, and Dargo and Zan examine the cargo analysis of their ship. It's containing Novatrin gas, which will eat you alive from the inside out. Stark says they must stop them and hits a button, firing Talyn's cannon. Dargo says that Stark did fire the cannon, but he will not mourn the death of somebody dealing in Novatrin gas. He says that they should not all be punished for Stark's doing. Stark tells Zan that Dargo's testimony will get him executed. Yeah, probably. And says that she has to believe him that he did not fire. Back on Moya, Chiana apologizes to Pilot for questioning him and getting him up all upset, and Pilot does kind of agree that the chances of finding Talyn are kind of minuscule, but Moya feels guilty out of responsibility. Chiana persuades him to ask Moya, who agrees with her concerns, so they set a return course.
Seems productive.
Going back and forth. Back on the Placavian ship, Dargo's returned to the platform, and this time Crichton's called. I guess, well, he's the last one, really, so it's his turn. He tells the Placavians that nobody fired, it must have been a malfunction. Then the Placavians show some pre-recorded testimony from Dargo saying that Stark fired it, and Crichton says that Dargo was confused. Stark wouldn't know how to fire, and then they show him the clip of Aaron saying that Stark offered to raise the defense screen. Crichton says that Dargo must have seen Stark at the console and assumed it was Stark. The Baclavians then show Zan's testimony saying that no one ever approached the weapon console. It must have malfunctioned, and that Crichton started towards it, but Aaron stopped him. So now the Baclavians say that he must have done it, but he says that everybody's story will be different because no one sees things the same way. They say that they do, but Crichton says there'll be inconsistencies, and the Placavians show Stark saying that Crais fired from the weapons console. The Placavians say they're all lying. The executions will begin immediately. They say that they'll execute Crichton first, but Crichton thinks that they're looking for a scapegoat, not the truth. They say they want justice, and Crichton says they're lying. He will give it to them straight. He does not know who it was. He can only say what he saw, and they tell him to please proceed. So, in Crichton's version of everything, Stark says that the Placavoids, and in this version everybody mispronounces it as Placavoids, not Placavians, are an evil race who produce weapons like scatter grenades, seismic disruptors, and Novatrin gas. Crais says he only wants their dampening net, but Dargo thinks he wants to install deadly weapons. Crais says that they can supervise the installation themselves, but he'll need their help as Talyn won't part with the cannon willingly. Dargo says they can't be a party to this, and Stark repeats that the Placavoids are evil. Their weapons have helped enslave many races, including his own. Crais says that this weapon will help Talyn, but Dargo says they can help Talyn by breaking Crais' neck. Okay, again, that's the same. Crais says that Talyn will be more destructive without guidance, which Zan calls control. Crais says that he can't convince Talyn that the weapon should only be used as his last resort, but Aaron suggests she may have more success. Crais says he's only ever fired in self-defense, and Zan once again backs his claim by bringing up the Halosian incident. Crais explains that they attacked and it was all he could do without finishing them off. Crais tells Crichton that he's changed. Talyn's aggression is his only concern now. The Placavoids arrive, but Stark says they should not deal with them. Crichton asks if they agree that the Placavoids are the right people to deal with. Stark goes over to the weapons console to fire, and he says they have to strike first. Crichton and Stark struggle over the control, and the cannon goes off. Crichton says that then Crais orders them to leave. He adds that Stark only touched the console after Crichton shut it down, and with the safety on, Stark could not have fired. So nobody again fired. Back in the holding area, Stark believes he'll be executed and wonders how. Aaron says that the Placavians had mentioned dispersion to her, and Stark says that there is a remote chance he might survive dispersion. If he's prepared, he could transfer enough of himself to another realm to survive. He then adds, after looking at Aaron, that he doesn't believe that will work either. Crichton is returned, and the Placavians say that they have no choice.
Placavoids.
Placavoids, yeah. Well, that they have no choice but to put them all to death. Stark then confesses, and everyone is knocked to the floor. They say that he was the prime suspect, and he removes his mask, revealing that the energy is no longer glowing, and hands the mask to Zan. He thanks them all for their friendship, and is then dispersed.
Or is he?
Yeah, maybe not. On the transport pod, Dargo says that he misjudged Stark. He should not have died for his crime. He was trying to save them. Crichton and Aaron say that he committed no crime, but Dargo says he saw Stark fire, and Zan adds that she did too, revealing that she had lied in her testimony. No, really? Crichton tells them that he shut down the weapons console, knowing it would return the control to Talyn. Dargo asks why Talyn would fire, and then Pilot chimes in, saying that when Talyn scanned the Placavian ship, he asked Moya what it was. When she said it was containing Novatrin gas, one of the 6 forbidden cargoes for Leviathans, Talyn reacted by attacking and destroying the Placavian ship. Everyone realized that Talyn had believed he was protecting Moya. Later, on Moya, Chiana goes to Dargo and sees a picture of his son and tells Dargo that he'll find him soon. Dargo replies that he'll only find him because Stark told him where he was, and wonders why he did that. He says that he had become so distrustful, even of his people trying to help. What does that say of him? Crichton asks Aaron why she didn't implicate Crais, and she says that she was protecting Talyn. She asks if he thinks that's possible that Stark survived. Crichton says that he's seen a lot of impossible things since he's been here, but Aaron says Zan thinks it could be done. Crichton adds that she says she does, but he doesn't think she believes it. And in Zan's quarters, She strokes Stark's mask and cries. The end.
Oh.
Oh. Some trivia about this episode. It was inspired by the Japanese film Rashomon. I've never seen it, but if it's got the same kind of stuff, it might be interesting to go look at that now. The way each line was to be delivered depended on who was narrating and was clearly marked in the script to ensure that the actors knew which version they were working on. According to Claudia Black, the production was not helped by the fact that most of the crew and cast had seen Galaxy Quest the weekend before shooting began.
By Gramthar's hammer.
In the interrogation scenes, the cast really was above a tank of water on the studio floor, so that's cool. Many of the images for the season 3 title sequence were derived from setups for this episode, so I guess we'll look forward to that in about 5 episodes. Tony Tilsey, the director, liked the chance he was given for the subtle revelations about the crew's feelings for each other. He said, "At times it was a tough one, but I look back at it and I love it because there's some lovely subtle performances. With everyone's story, you get a hint of what they think of each other, and how everybody felt that Crichton was with them rather than with the others. It was good to see who was the good liar. Aaron was a very good liar. Zan was a terrible liar," as we'll get into. All right, so what did you think about our multi-perspective episode here?
It's a good, I'd say, upper mid-tier episode. We don't get a lot of story growth, right? I mean, there's not a lot moving things forward other than we lose Stark. I mean, that's I guess going to be a plot point, but as far as like major revelations, we don't get a lot in this episode. But the character interplay and as we kind of mentioned in the recap of the trivia, the different way each character remembered the scenes made this kind of a really fun take and a good exposition episode of character dynamics, if not story.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, I like the kind of stories where, they do the same things over and over again. Like each act is like the same thing, but like with little differences. Star Trek is done a bunch of times, but I guess here they kind of do it a little differently, where instead of just the same scenes they're doing different things in, it's how the different characters are perceiving what happened. So, as Crichton said, everyone sees things differently. So it's kind of funny to see how they think about each other, like, or how they think they remember how people act or say, right? Because sometimes they'll say, like Crichton said, like, we'll phone you in one story, but then somebody else said, we'll call you. So is that like a translation thing? Like they didn't know what a phone was, or that's just how they remembered, a different word that meant more to them than the person that said it originally, right? So it's kind of
Well,
fun.
that's true because they've got the babblefish microbes that help them hear, but that doesn't necessarily mean what they hear is in the original language, right? So it may be what it means to them.
Some things don't translate. Like Crichton says some like pop culture reference that would have no meaning whatsoever, even to how you translate it, it'd just be nothing. So yeah, it's kind of interesting to see what translates to what. And yeah, even though they had different perspectives, it's kind of like we said before in the recap. There's some common stuff in everybody's story. Dargo wants to snap Crais' neck. That's pretty much in every single one of them.
That's in every story,
Yeah,
not
Crichton
just
hates
this
Crais.
episode. That's every show.
Yeah,
Dargo
that's
just
pretty
wants
much
to
it. Yeah,
snap. Yeah.
Crais' neck, Scorpius' neck. Yeah.
Yeah, and the next one's actually pretty true. Crichton hates Crais in every show, so yeah,
Yeah.
we got that.
Yeah, Crichton can't stand Crais. Crais doesn't like Crichton. Although Crichton does seem to get along with everybody, as the director said. Everybody agrees with everybody. It's kind of funny.
No, everybody wants Crichton on
Uh,
their side,
that's right. Yeah. Talyn attacks the Halosians from a couple episodes ago. Everybody says that. Crais says he prevented Talyn from destroying them. So everybody says that. Crais forces everybody off the ship after the Blocavian is destroyed. So there are some consistencies, and other times there's stuff that's way off. So.
Yeah, I really did like the idea of having Crichton side with each of them from their own perspective, right? It doesn't matter who's doing the retelling. Crichton support shifts depending on who's remembering it. And then the other cool thing I thought was the placement of the characters in the shot, right? Because whoever's telling the story usually ends up being more prominent, especially Dargo, right? Because Dargo goes from being in the back or off to the side to being literally in the front, leering over Crais in his memory. So in his memory, either way, I can remember it for you wholesale. Just kind of to circle back though, I think as you mentioned in Star Trek, we see a lot of these time loop or Groundhog Day type episodes, and I could be wrong, but this is one of the few that stands out to me where you see not a time loop, but the same scene remembered differently and recounted. So I do think that's a really good point that, I don't think we see a lot. You see a lot of time loops.
Yeah, I mean, I couldn't really think of anything where they've done like the same like a different, the same scene with different perspectives. I'm sure I've seen them before. Just there's nothing jumping out off the top of my head.
Right, and I'm sure somebody could tell me that, oh yeah, Star Trek did this here, but in my non super Star Trekky brain, they don't jump out at me. Whereas time loops are a dime a dozen, it seems like. So
Yeah, 'cause that's the easy one. You just do the same thing over and over again. Like this last season, Doctor Who had a story about that. So, or the Christmas special, right? Anyway. And yeah, it's kind of good that again we kind of sidelined, I guess is a better way to put it, certain characters because if Chiana and Rigel were there, they would have flipped on Stark like immediately. Like it's all Stark's fault. He did it. Get us out of here.
yeah, and I don't think we needed two more recaps, right? I think everybody was good to end the recaps with Crichton without having to do two more times. But yeah, we can pretty much figure out what they would have said. Although
Yeah, 'cause
Chiana's
then
might have been interesting, so I would like to see her impression of everybody. So
yeah, that would have been interesting if you think about it. Rigel, yeah, probably just been like
oh they
everyone's subservient to him. He's the boss. He's in charge.
yeah, everybody would have deferred to him, and he would have been the hero. But yeah, Chiana's would have been kind of fun, especially given some of the stuff we see with a strong Chiana episode coming up next. So
And I guess by far Zan's story is, I guess, how things should be. But yeah, she's a really bad liar. In her version, everybody's nice, except Dargo, who still wants to break Crais' neck. But otherwise, he's mostly nice. Crais is, just kind of sad that Crichton doesn't believe him, that he's sorry, and he didn't want to do it. And he's sad he doesn't he's not forgiven anymore. It's like, yeah. And then she's obviously trying to schmooze the Bokavians, saying that they're strong believers in justice, and their ships are beautiful, and it's like, yeah, yeah, nice try trying to pull one over on your interrogators there.
I did, at least to me, I felt like Dargo was nice until she was questioned about it, and when they're like, well, surely everybody wasn't on that weren't was not non-confrontational. She's like, well, yeah, Dargo eventually did do this, until Dargo got mad or something. But it wasn't until they kind of said, really, that she's like, well, yeah, okay, maybe one person got mad, and of course it was Dargo. But the first time through, Dargo wasn't even upset.
Yeah, Aaron kind of, he was still upset, but he wasn't, I guess, like ragely upset.
Yeah.
And of course, Stark's story makes total sense. He's yeah, stuck on that Gamma base for what, like 2 or 3 cycles before even Crichton got there. So yeah, he hates the Peacekeepers for what happened to him and his people. So yeah, he's like all framing on Crais. We had nothing to do with it. Can we go now?
Well, yeah, and he's not got the attachment to any of the other that we mentioned. So he's got no reason to support Talyn that like the others do. He didn't have that attachment, and up until this point, he's kind of been this stable, even keeled mystic character, and it's kind of neat to see him actually get freaked out. And turns out he kind of brought it on himself. So if he had just held his calm, it wouldn't have been that big of a deal. He'd still be alive.
Yeah, because I think he's also the only one that knows who the Blacavians are, because no one else seems to know. At least to the degree of what they do or what they are. They're weapons dealers and make all these nasty weapons and enslaved. Well, he said that they enslaved his people, but then so the peacekeep. I don't know. Anyway, but yeah, basically they're bad people. He knows it. He can't convince them of that fact. So yeah, I guess that would kind of get one resort then, just blow them up. Get away from it. So.
Yeah, it seems pretty drastic. I think there'd be some interesting backstory there. Of did they like enslave him and his people and sell him into the peacekeepers, or why this animosity? Would have been interesting.
Yeah, but there's definitely some pretty major backstory there that's make him basically crazy, frantic, irrational, I guess, depending how you look at it. But yeah, and I guess the flip side of that, basically everybody's covering for everybody on the crew. Even in the fake stories or the wrong version of the stories, everybody's still kind of covering, for the real truth, which is kind of nice since it's been almost 2 years now that we've been with them, so they've evolved, right? If this would have been like early season one, people have been flipping on each other. Rigel, of course, if he was there, would have immediately flipped on everybody. And pretty much everybody except Dargo covers for Stark. Like they don't want to tell him that Stark hit the button, which according to Crichton didn't do anything because he turned the safeties off or on, or whatever, turn the console off. But I mean, you can kind of see why Dargo just kind of like, yeah, it's all Stark's fault since I guess he's still kind of PO'd that they still haven't rescued his son yet, and that Stark had waited like days to tell him in the first place when they first came aboard. So I mean, I kind of get Dargo's where he's coming from, but It's kind of a little harsh that he's like, yeah, just kill the guy. Yeah, he did it. Kill him. We can all go now.
Yeah, and I think he shows that at the end of the episode with his remorse and questioning how he's become so callous. And maybe we'll get some. I think there's a lot going on between now and the end of the season. Looks like so. I don't know how much we'll get to revisit that point and see any retrospect on Dargo's personality. I'm sure having his son, the explanation they get for finding his son, which I'm guessing is going to happen some point this season or first or next, will move forward there. But yeah, we've definitely got a family now, a crew, as opposed to just the loose group of prisoners that are trying to survive, and that's a nice growth from where the show started.
Yeah, and even Dargo's, I guess, got some kind of growth. He does say he wants to snap Crais' neck, but he doesn't. 'Cause everybody at least is consistent in that respect. So
And
he is. I won't say he's mellowing, but he is learning, I guess, as the course of the seasons go, to like not be that irrational rage machine.
but his protection has expanded. He now includes all of them in it. I mean, Stark is an exception, right? Stark's not part of the nuclear crew. We don't know how long he's been there at this point, but he's not part of the family in Dargo's mind like the others are. So he doesn't have that sense of protection that he has for even Erin at this point, even though she's a peacekeeper. He's accepted her. So I think there's some growth in Dargo there somewhere.
Mhm. Yeah. And in fact, he was sorry at the end. So yeah, hopefully, yeah, that'll progress in the future. So I guess the big question, since it's a sci-fi show, is Stark really dead? They did hang that lantern on the fact that he says there might be a way he can survive dispersion by somehow going to other realms, like other universes, other dimensions, whatever. I don't know. So like as we know it in sci-fi, anything's possible.
And we don't really have a great. I don't feel like we have a great explanation of how his power slash energy slash whatever the magic energy vortex in his face is. So, and how what that does for other realms, right? Because he mentions transitioning himself to a different realm. So anything's possible. I'll be honest, I did kind of expect the end there where they were focusing in on the mask or something to get some kind of swarming energy or something to indicate that someday it might return and kind of give us the aspect that he did survive. But they avoided that and stuck with a somber, sad ending. So no guarantee, but it did leave the door open, didn't it?
Yeah, it's kind of nice that they left you wondering. So they can always bring that back in future episodes, which they've done before. Like Maldus, that one like Q-like energy being kind of guy was dispersed too, and he came back next season. So hey, who knows?
Yeah, maybe they can pal around together, kind of like the Wanderer and whatever. Yeah, just kind of
Yeah, go hang out somewhere together and reminisce about Moya's crew and
go on a Lay's potato chip flashback ride. I don't know. Anyway,
yeah,
bad commercial reference that won't age well. Sorry.
yeah, right. And then we kind of have the B plot with the crew left on Moya. I mean, it was okay. I mean, you would expect Moya to want to go after her son. I totally get that. Not really much else, I guess, to say other than maybe Chiana and Pilot are getting maybe more friendly to one another after the little argument. So there's some at least character growth with those two. So that's nice to see.
That was, although I do think this was strictly let's get them out of the way so we don't have to worry about what they're doing while the crew are on the ship, right? The Placovoid ship. It was okay. I don't think we got much out of this other than it just diverted the characters. It was like a long grocery store run. So
Yeah. All right. Anything else about the ugly truth?
no, I think we like, as we said, it was not the top stellar, my favorite episode of all time, but definitely a good, solid, enjoyable episode. So I enjoyed it.
Yeah, it's definitely like in the middle there of the. I guess in 4 episodes from now we'll recap the season. But yeah, it's in the good category or a good bucket, whatever you want to call it. So.
Yeah, we're definitely not in a slump, so we can continue to be hopeful for all these great episodes to continue. And I guess speaking of continue, we can jump right into season 2, episode 18, A Clockwork Nebari. That title can't mean anything.
Yeah, I think I was right from my guess last time, but we'll see.
Gold star. We'll see how it goes. So we start out with Crichton and Chiana returning from a planet where Chiana has used her talents to gain information about the slave auctions where Dargo's son is believed to be.
Hey, finally, we're back to that plot line. All right.
Yeah, well, we hung a lantern on it at the end of the last episode, so we gotta get to it at some point. So they had to leave Aaron and Rigel down on the planet to cover them because when Crichton was getting Chiana out of trouble, his pulse pistol, which he's named Winona, has jammed, and so they both expect Aaron to be mad. But when she and Rigel return, she calls Chiana over to apologize for not looking after her better and says that saving Chiana was in the past and now she's looking to the future. Rigel says that they have a surprise for her being Chiana, when she notices that Aaron is not carrying her pulse pistol, and she always carries a pulse pistol. Noticing how strange this is, Crichton tells Chiana to go and talk to Dargo, but before she can leave, a Nebari woman appears and says it's time to go home. Chiana realizes that Aaron and Rigel have been mind cleansed and attempts to run. However, Aaron stops her, and when Crichton's pistol fails, again, Varla, that's the Nebari, stuns them. We then go to a damaged Nebari ship as it docks on Moya, carrying a Nebari man named Milik, who has also been looking for Chiana. Meanwhile, Aaron places a restraint collar on Pilot, who tries unsuccessfully to resist. Varla gives Pilot the coordinates to the nearest Nebari colony, where she wants them to go. And Aaron tells Pilot that their ship had a run-in with peacekeepers, probably from Scorpius' command carrier, so they should stay on full alert. And by the way, if Moya starbursts, the collar will give Pilot a lethal injection.
Dun, dun, dun.
Yeah, that doesn't sound very friendly and non-violent. So Dargo and Chiana and Crichton are in a cell with Chiana chained up, and she explains that the cleansing Varla has used is a temporary, drug-induced version, but it's just as effective. Crichton asks her why Varla would go through hell just to get to her, but before she answers, Milik appears. Dargo attacks him, but Zan uses the control collar system to activate the collars on Dargo and Crichton. She has been mind cleansed too. While Aaron fixes some of Varla's wounds, she says that she knows Chiana and she's not dangerous. Varla disagrees, saying that Chiana jeopardizes their attempts to eliminate violent and aggressive behavior in their society. Dargo has been taken to be cleansed, and Crichton realizes that he's next. He asks Chiana to tell him what this is all about. She tells him about her brother, Neri, who is now dead. She and Neri wanted to escape Nebari Prime at a young age, but were given exit permits by the government. At the time, they didn't question why it was so easy. They just ran. However, 2 cycles later, Neri found out why. They flushed a contagion from their systems after someone high up in the establishment gave him the antibody. Neri left Chiana to get away alone because knowing he could identify the traitor would put her at risk. She says that the establishment is trying to infect as much of the galaxy as it can with the contagion, and they want to find out who gave Neri the antibody. They infected her and hundreds of others during a routine physical that they gave, knowing that they would go out and transmit the contagion. Crichton asks her why she didn't tell them this before, and figures that they're after her because they probably think she's still in contact with Neri. Suddenly, Milik appears and activates Crichton's collar, telling him it's his time. As a weeping Dargo apologizes to Crichton for all the bad things he's done, Crichton is forced to undergo a very painful cleansing, complete with having his eyeballs pulled out and having implants placed on the optic nerves.
Yeah, that I didn't need to see that, but
no,
okay.
that was a bit much and very Roger Rabbity.
Yeah, true. Like the mask, right? Like,
yeah.
woo!
Yeah. The eyeballs coming out was a bit much, in case you did. Meanwhile, Varla invites Chiana to eat and asks where Neri is. Chiana says that he died a quarter of a cycle ago. To her surprise, Varla shows her a hologram of Neri being identified as the leader of an assault on Nebari freight convoys less than 10 solar days ago. Milik says that the establishment has sent out many messengers infected with the contagion for over 20 cycles. It spreads quickly, shows no outward symptoms, and waits for a specific time ordained by the establishment. They expect it to have infected enough people and civilizations to throw these worlds into chaos, so that when the emissaries arrive, they'll be met with minimum resistance. That doesn't sound ominous at all.
Yeah, just another typical day in the Nebari Prime, whatever. So.
Yeah, they sound like nice people. Varla threatens to use Chiana to get to Neri if she doesn't reveal his location. Crichton, fresh from his cleansing, walks through Moya in a daze, but as he does, he sees images of Scorpius telling him to fight what they've done to him. Crichton then goes to see Pilot and tells him that the cleansing didn't work. He can't explain it, as he was cleansed briefly before it suddenly wear off. Which, the neural chip, which Crichton doesn't know about, having counteracted the drug, nothing big.
Yeah. Once again, Scorpius saves the day.
Yeah. In all honesty, this neural chip is kind of handy. They probably should keep it around. I'm sure that'll happen.
Yeah, right.
Pilot says that he can't alter course because Aaron keeps coming to check on his status. As Varla is talking to Chiana, Crichton enters and in a very hippie way, sure, says that Moya's speed and safety have been affected by the flood of her amnexus system. Varla leaves, so Crichton tells Chiana that he's not cleansed, and he hits her to prove it. He wants to get the others back, and she says that the drugs rely on the rate of the being's metabolism and reminds him of how fast Rigel's metabolism is. Crichton visits Rigel and finds that the drug has already passed through his system, restoring him to normal. So he's just kind of hanging out in the kitchen for the fun of it at this point.
Yeah, you have to eat, again.
3 stomachs, yeah. Crichton asks for help in defeating Varla, however Rigel has other ideas and refuses to make the Nebari any angrier. Milik appears and asks why Crichton wants Rigel's help, and Rigel says that he doesn't think that the cleansing is working on Crichton. This prompts Crichton to hit him, and Milik realizes that it's not working on either of them. Milik takes Crichton to Chiana's cell, where he asks if they have any communication devices in it. When they say no, he gives Crichton a weapon and says they don't have much time. He uses Chiana's DNA to activate a message from Neri, who says that he's doing important but dangerous work, and the person delivering the message is one of his people, under orders not to take Chiana to him because it's too dangerous at this time. He just wanted Chiana to know that he's alive and well, and tells her to keep herself hidden. Milik says that Chiana is the only thing Neri cares about more than the Resistance, and when she asks him to take her to Neri, he reminds her of his orders. He has some important data to take to the Resistance, which he'll do when they reach the outpost. He says that if he helps, he's jeopardizing his position and everyone relying on him. Chiana says that she'll tell Varla, but he knows she won't. Crichton asks Pilot to try and fake a return of the Peacekeepers to convince Varla to allow Starburst. But without DRDs, he needs someone to reconfigure the wiring. Crichton finds Rigel, and after chewing him out, says he and Pilot have a plan and Rigel must help them. Aaron comes in and asks what they're doing, and they unconvincingly tell her they're fixing something for Dargo because he is ill. Crichton goes and tells Chiana the plan and says that she must do her part at the right time. Aaron, however, bumps into Dargo and says it's odd that he's fine as Crichton just told her he was ill. As Crichton and Rigel are doing their job, Pilot says Chiana already has the Nebari in command. Chiana tells Varla that she'll cooperate without the need for cleansing. Crichton is still not ready, and then Dargo appears and asks what he's doing. Aaron also comes along and says that since he lied, they know they're not cleansed. They try to take them away, but Rigel drops the live wires he was holding on the floor, causing a burst of electricity which knocks them unconscious. Varla says that Chiana is wasting their time when Crichton enters command and says that Prowlers are shadowing them, that their command center has just entered Moya's sensor range, and Pilot puts a carrier image on the screen. Chiana says that their only defense is a starburst, but Pilot is restrained. The carrier fires and causes explosions and damage. Crais erratically appears on the screen, saying that they will be destroyed, but Varla still refuses to let Pilot starburst, as she believes the Peacekeepers will aid the Resistance if they get Chiana. She attempts to kill her. Pilot maneuvers, throwing everyone around until Milik objects to Varla killing Chiana. Crichton jumps on Varla, but she turns him around, and Crichton tells her it's all a ruse and gets Pilot to stop the broadcast. Chiana attacks Varla, but she fights back, so Milik then kills her, saying that she betrayed the spirit of their people. Rigel has Dargo, Aaron, and Zan locked up, and they're angry, saying that the cleansing has worn off. Dargo says they're in the vicinity of the slave auctions for his son, but Rigel says that Pilot's plotting a course, so all they need to do is stay there and metabolize, which he's obviously enjoying. Milik is leaving, and Chiana asks to go with him, saying she wants to help, but he and Crichton says that she be recognizes. She tells Crichton she wants to see Neri, but he says that she can't compromise what her brother is doing. He says Neri is alive and to take that, as it's more than she had yesterday. She wants to go, but Crichton reminds her that people like them don't get what they want as Milik leaves. The end. So, a little trivia for this episode. The title of the episode comes from the book and movie A Clockwork Orange, which has its own brainwashing element. The scene in which Crichton has his eyeballs pulled out by a machine is a visual reference to a similar torture device featured in the original movie. However, on that note, the human eye cannot actually be manipulated in the manner shown in the episode.
Thankfully.
Man, I sure hope not.
Woo, man.
The episode also introduces Winona, Crichton's gun. It was named by Ben Browder as a reference to the actress Winona Ryder. Crichton's comment about bringing Miss Kitty home at the beginning of the episode is a reference to the radio and TV series Gunsmoke. Also, Gigi Edgley recalls this was filmed just before the Easter break, and everyone was eager to get away as soon as she had finished her big emotional scene at the end of the episode. Finally, Dargo and Aaron are knocked out by the electricity. After that, Crichton says, "Bitchin'." Just as the episode scene cuts to black, you can hear Rigel repeat the word. So, any thoughts on this one?
Yeah, it's another, solid episode, like in the not fantastic category, but not in the bad category. However, we're categorizing things, which we just make it up. But it was good. I guess first off, to the last trivia note, I laughed out loud when Rigel said "bitchin'." I don't know if that was like an ad lib that they kept or that was in the script, but yeah, that was fantastic. So I loved it.
Especially after the fade to black, right? I mean, it was like you thought they were done, and then you catch it right at the end.
Yeah, because like if you're recording it back in the day and you're going to just, oh, it's going to black, I'll just start fast forwarding. You might have missed that, right? So, but that was a little cool, unexpected thing. As far as the episode in general goes, like I said, I loved it. Great acting by the cast. Both being under mental control and for those faking it.
Totally,
Man,
totally.
like there's stuff happening. Like, it's good to get more Chiana backstory because she hasn't really had her own kind of full episode other than the one we'll mention later that we didn't so like so much. So she got to do some good acting. Got to learn more about her people, which we didn't know about before, really. And even after she was around, they didn't really talk about her people that much. And apparently, they have some kind of secret plan for, I don't want to say world domination because that's too small thinking. They want to dominate lots of worlds in the uncharted territories. So we'll get more into that later. But what do you think about it?
Yeah, I definitely thought it was a great showcase of utilizing the crew's, we'll go with incompetence to maintain the ruse, right? I mean, especially with our pop culture references, Crichton's surfer slash stoner slash whatever acting was fun. They did a good job of getting Chiana's exposition in without being like super exposition heavy handed. And, as we'll touch on it a little bit, I really like getting some backstory on Nebari. I think they're probably some of the more interesting cultures slash races slash whatever you want to call them in this world to me of the uncharted territories, right? I mean, not only we already had the little bit we got from Chiana's introduction of the brainwashing and for the greater good stuff that they can do, the cleansing, but now on top of that, we've also got a home world that she was trying to escape and a major plot for domination. So they've jumped up pretty high in my list of favorite races here, species, whatever we're calling them.
Yeah, no, I agree that they're interesting. Before we get a lot into that here in a second, since I have seen this before, I've said it a couple times before, I do remember from future episodes that Crichton always calls his gun Winona, but I don't remember where he actually said that. So this is good to see that where it first happens. That's kind of cool. I always thought it was kind of funny that he named, his gun's got a name. One of the D&D games I used to play back in the day, I did have a weapon that one of my characters had named Winona. No one got it, but like one person else in the group, must have watched Farscape, so she thought it was kind of funny.
Yeah, I always find it interesting, naming of objects. It's kind of similar to how people name cars. In the Jeep world, everybody's Jeep's got a name, so that's always kind of funny to have that applied to an object, especially in a sci-fi world. The closest I can think of that I remember is in oh my goodness, Firefly, Jane's gun is Vera, right? So
Yeah.
he always that always cracked me up. So yeah, it's always an interesting cultural thing to have people name their inanimate objects and give them personalities.
Yeah, because usually they're like some like, majestic name like, Excalibur or, whatever, but here it's like just the person's name. There's like a fantasy series by Jack Chalker where like the guy's sword was named Irving. It's just like, okay.
Well, actually, what it reminds me of, and this is again a pretty obscure one, but in the '90s, there was Marvel was doing the trying to get into the dark magic type of demon type of comics for a little while, with Blade and Ghost Rider and all those, and there was a series of called the Night Stalkers that had Blade and a couple other guys team up as a detective agency, and one of the characters was a descendant of Dracula, I think, but he had a superpowered gun that he called Linda, which was off of Linda Blair, The Exorcist. So I always thought that was kind of cool. But yeah, having your super powerful fancy gun named Linda was always kind of a funny
Yeah.
side note.
You've been killed by Linda. What?
Makes for a great action scene. Which quick, hit me, Linda.
Yeah, right.
Like that. Anyway, what?
Say what? So yeah, so let's get into like I guess the real cool parts of this episode. But there's some big major reveals of the Nebari and personally Chiana's brother. But first, apparently their government has sent out hundreds or thousands of their people with some kind of virus or infection or whatever, whatever you want to call it, to infect as many people as they can possibly get their hands on. And then I guess at some point they'll activate the contagion virus, whatever we're calling this thing.
Evidently, it's
And
not a time setting, right? I mean, it's a specific
yeah,
day
or
or
they
something.
can,
So
yeah. So it's nice DNA and genetic engineering there, and I guess that'll make maybe all those people mind cleanse or temporarily mind cleanse or something, so they can just arrive on on the scene and take over with minimal resistance. No, that's sneaky. I love it, and it's kind of a cool plot line if they keep going with this. Hopefully they will. Why have a whole episode devoted to it and not mention it later? I don't know. I mean, you really can't think much of like this kind of thing to that level that I've seen in other TV shows or movies. Closest thing I can think of, spoilers for a 40-year-old British sci-fi series called Blake Seven. Their ruling body, the Federation, like all the planets that they control, they've got like chemicals in the air and water to make their people more docile, to to control them, so they don't want to revolt and overthrow them. So that's the only thing I could think is kind of like similar to this scale and scope of what they're trying to do.
yeah, I haven't seen Blake Seven yet, so thanks for the spoiler there. Um,
It's 40 years old, man. Come on.
yeah, honestly, if I haven't seen it at this point, I'm probably not going to have the time to pick it back up.
And
Um,
that's not the best part of the episode of the series, so I'm not really anything
wow.
really.
Well, maybe I should put it on the list then. I feel like every time we do one of these, I mention a TV show I haven't seen. So anyway, I also don't watch Doctor Who, so I'm losing some credit here. Um, so I guess I'll make some backup by again mentioning Firefly, since that seems to be my go-to today. There, in the movie, there is I said Serenity, not Firefly. There's the Planet Miranda, where they had a similar issue with the chemical in the system or the terraforming that was supposed to make other people all docile, but ended up creating reavers. So there is that similarity. But I definitely agree. It's a very cool concept, and I really hope they pick it up because I'm really interested in the Nebari culture and where they can go from here and how that works out for the future of the territories,
Yeah, because
unknown regions, whatever we're at. Yeah,
yeah, unknown thingies. Yeah,
I'll get that one day, I swear, or not at this point.
unknown space. Yeah, right. But yeah, I mean, if you think about like this would be like a major plot thread of like a current series, like like this decade or something. Like this would be like a in like an 8 to 10 episode season nowadays. This would be like the focal point of like the entire season of them finding out this whole plot about taking over worlds with the virus and just and like going with it for like 8 episodes or something.
Yeah, it really could be because there's a lot here.
Yeah, now you got like two warring factions, right? You got these guys, you got the peacekeepers, so that would be fun too. And they got the people in the middle, yeah. So they could do a whole lot with this if they wanted to, and we'll see. Like, I don't remember, bits and pieces here, so we'll see if they go with it. But I mean, it could be a fantastic hook for lots of plots coming up.
Well, and we've still got I'm blanking on what they are again. The things that Scorpius is half, right? Because Scorpius is only half peacekeeper. He's half
Scaring.
whatever, scared. Yeah. So they're out there too. So yeah, all kinds of cool stuff.
And then the second big major reveal is that Chiana's brother Neri is alive. So back in our favorite episode of season 2 so far, episode 3, Taking the Stone. Just kidding, we hated it, or at least most of parts of it.
Man,
The
what
part,
was what was the thing they said there? They threw their hands up, right? There was anyway.
yeah.
Man,
After
now I
they,
gotta
after they mentioned taking the stone, that they would.
taking the stone, the hands up over your head. Yeah,
That's
you
right.
can't see it, but I'm doing it here.
Strike
So
strike a pose. Yeah. But yeah, kind of the only parts we liked were the part where like we learned that Chiana has like this life disc that was linking her to Neri, and it stopped working. So she's been thinking he's been dead, for I guess we said like a quarter cycle now. So it's only been like what 3 months her time, and she spent the whole rest of the episode coming to terms with he's dead, and she has to live for herself now. So now she really gets to react for real that he's alive, and how you thought he was dead, you wrote him off for 3 months. Now suddenly he's alive, right? And there's video proof too. So it's like the guy's just not saying it. He can prove it, right? And not only that, not only is he alive, he's apparently some resistance leader to try to foil the evil plans of the Bar government. And to top all that off, somebody in that government gave him and her the antibodies. So someone doesn't like obviously there's somebody in the government that doesn't like what the government's trying to do, so that's got that like fifth column kind of thing going on. So yeah, I mean, there's lots of stuff they can do with this. It's I love it.
And, if we eventually do get to deal with this conspiracy, which please let us do that, they've got a potential ally inside the government, right? So if we do ever end up with our super competent crew of characters getting involved in this conspiracy, we've got a built-in ally that they can get the lowdown from. So that's pretty cool.
But first, we have to save Dargo's son. I think we can't push stuff anymore, or Dargo would be really mad at this point if you don't.
Yeah, I'm sure that's going to come up quick, right? I mean, they're indicating that they're in the region, so he's got to be pretty close.
And yeah, like we had said before, we kind of like how the actors kind of play up being mentally cleansed or temporarily mentally cleansed. Erin's not so much different other than she's just nicer, which I guess that's, against type for her. But it was hilarious when Crichton first sees Dargo after he's cleansed, and Dargo's like crying and like, I'm sorry for, everything I've done to you over these, last couple of years, and that was hilarious. But and of course, and we poke fun of this on and off throughout the whole podcast. Crichton just, like sells it. He's acting all hippie or valley girl, valley guy like when he's faking being controlled, or I guess I should say more Gary Rigo like dude from a couple episodes ago.
That's a great callback. Although I have to admit, as much as Crichton was, like you say, the star and all over the place, it was his show, I guess. But he's the voice of the audience. But the scene where Dargo is all teary and apologetic, and Crichton says, "Hey man, we'll talk later," and he's like, "Okay." Like the acting that Dargo the actor, I guess, not Dargo, but the actor himself gets into these scenes against type of his typical Dargo emotion and anger is it's a trip. And you mentioned the Gary Regal, and I had flavors of that coming back here with his emotive, sad, and contrite personality. So.
Yeah, because in these last several episodes, how long it's been, I mean, yeah, they're really playing up like the break out of the typical mold of their characters and like doing just off the wall kind of things and selling it. I mean, I was rolling on the floor when every time Crichton's like walking through the ship. Whoa, man, stuff's happening.
Yeah. Yeah. How else do you act brainwashed, right? You act like a Ninja Turtle, so it works.
Yeah, yeah. Your docile surfer dude. I don't know. I have no idea, but yeah, I don't quite get. But yeah, it's hilarious. And of course, the real star of the show is Scorpius's neural chip, which saves the day again. It's the MacGuffin to fix everything. So.
Yeah, I'm telling you, he just needs to keep that thing. I mean, how bad can having a Scorpius in your head be if you get all these extra benefits of getting out of situations that should have killed you or not worked out?
Yeah, I mean, you gotta being like mentally tortured. You gotta be mentally controlled. So I mean, it can stop your vital organs at will. I mean, what's not to like?
Well, and you're never alone, so you've always got a built-in best friend. He gets lonely, he can talk to himself.
Yeah, and no one knows if you're talking to yourself or on your Bluetooth. Like no one, no one has a clue. So
Yeah,
either you're crazy or not.
It's my pet Scorpius. Yeah, it's awesome.
Yeah, right. And of course, also playing to type. Of course, Rigel sells out Crichton, or tries to, naturally. And then later, like Crichton's kind of grabs him, picks him up, kind of bounces him around a bit, which I loved it. It was hilarious. And then kind of a little thing I caught where Rigel's saying, mentions a comment later like that he's nobody's puppet, which is hilarious because he is a puppet. Anyway,
Muppet.
Very, very meta.
He's a Muppet, man.
That's right.
Not a puppet. So he's nobody's puppet. He's everybody's Muppet.
Yeah.
But
in space.
in space. But no, I'll admit I didn't even think of that when they said that. I kind of missed it. But that's an awesome meta point. I think that's hilarious.
Along with bitchin'. So yeah, it was it was a good episode.
Yeah, Rigel had some good spots. So
yeah. And then, I mean, the only gripe that I could have about any of this, it's not really a gripe, but what was Crichton's plan after if his thing would have worked? So yeah, granted they would have starburst away, so they're away from the Nebari base, which is a good thing, but everybody would still be controlled. So I guess that was just phase one, or first thing. It's all I can think of. It just gives away, and then we'll deal with it.
Yeah, I think we'll try to give him credit for step one, stop the imminent threat, which is the base, and then step two, maybe if they took the base away, he knew that the other guy would help him out because they weren't going to the base where he needed to get off. So Milik could help them dispose of kind of like what actually happened. Milik could help him dispose of the other one, and then they could go from there. But
Yeah, maybe like ambush her or something, and then they could take the collars off, lock everybody up, and get them cleaned up, and then yeah, let him go with the ship. And none the wiser. He could have said, she died too in the Peacekeeper attack. I'm the only one who survived, right? And
yeah, they didn't know that she survived. I mean, she was pretty damaged at the beginning of the episode, so she could have just passed away from whatever caused that. So
yeah,
the Peacekeeper attack.
yeah, and then the fake Peacekeeper attack that they staged. So I guess like on all spaceships, you can cause conduits to explode at will.
Well, yeah, I mean, you keep explosive in all your conduit, right? I mean, that's an important thing.
Yeah, I mean that's part of the design. Everybody builds ships and it's like, you know what, this console also has to explode because
It's the same reason you can't have guardrails over deadly drops. You gotta
yeah, that's why Star Wars has no OSHA department. Yeah, that's
right.
right.
We've evolved past that.
That's right.
Well,
Because
or they haven't been invented
we're all
yet.
just naturally. It's all common sense. Like, why would I want to step off into the giant abyss in front of me? I wouldn't do that, right? So
Truth.
it's like we're getting to a bad replay of Clerks talking about the Death Star. Anyway, we don't go there.
Another movie I haven't seen, but anyway.
So I guess anything else about this one before we wrap it up?
No, I think, like I said, I think we rated these mid top tier, but now having recapped it again, I actually kind of bumped this one up a little bit just from the Nebari possibilities. The episode itself, again, it was fun, but I'm really excited for some of the options we got out of this, and I hope we get to continue with it.
Yeah. So like we said, overall, the two good episodes. Not fantastic, not terrible, but solid middle, upper middle, whatever. Plenty of room for scene chewing acting and good drama in both episodes. That was kind of fun. We do get our usual character growth, right? Dargo's learning not to judge everybody a little late because you got to start killed. But hey, you're learning. You're growing, and he might not be dead. We don't know. We get the major story with Chiana, so Gigi Edgley gets to do some good acting finally, or not finally, but
Ooh,
a show.
shot fired.
Sorry, I did not mean that. I'm sure she's listening, so I apologize, Gigi. I didn't really mean.
She is one of our 7 listeners. Come
That's
on.
right. We have people on the crew, and then yeah, Gigi, right? So, yeah. So no, she got to do some good acting in this episode. Really, to explore the backstory of her character, and that's good. And like we said, those major plot points, which they could really dig into and go nuts with if they wanted to. So hopefully that will go somewhere because it's kind of too good of a thing to just kind of leave there and never come back to.
Like I totally agree with you there, dude. that I could not have said that better, man.
Excellent. Far out, man.
I'm really trying not to fall into a Bill and Ted spoof, so we're just gonna have to roll with that.
And that's what I was thinking. That when he was running around doing stuff, I'm like, okay, good job, Ted," or or like Beavis, or something like oh, just the high point of the episode. One of them, yeah, the comedic side of things. All right, so next time we got season 2, episode 19, Liars, Guns, and Money, part 1. Oh, a not so simple plan, and episode 20, Liars, Guns, and Money, part 2, with friends like these. So I know we said before that the other three-parter, this is a three-parter by the way, we said before that the other three-parter had the longest titles. I think these now have the longest titles. I'm not going to go character count, but what the heck. I will decree that these are the longest titles so far of the episode of the season.
It's yeah, they're up there. I didn't look. Is part 3 Who Needs Enemies?
I don't know. I didn't look either. So that would make sense.
Which means it's totally not that. So
yeah, so it can't be that. That's too obvious.
It can't be that. Too obvious.
And we won't know next time because, well, we'll know at the end of next time when we recap, what's coming up next time. So, having to guess if we want to play a little game, I got no clue. I guess it involves lying, guns, and money. That's all I got. So I guess some scheme to get some money. Well, it sounds like they have to be rescuing Dargo's son. I mean, please, they've drug it out now for like 2 episodes or 3 now. So this has to be the big rescue, like 3-parter. So if he's a slave at an auction, then you have to have money to buy him rather than try to bust him out, which they can't with 5 people, right? Some big slave auction. I'm sure it's armed to the teeth. So they're probably gonna go in as like undercover buyers and try to buy him, right? I'm guessing. So
We are reaching the back part of the season. I mean, there's not a whole lot left before we hit the season finale here. So they've got to start moving that way. I will agree with that. So those guesses sound as good as any to me. I'm going to go with part one. Sounds like planning, maybe a not so simple one, maybe a complex plan.
yeah, like a Ocean's 11 kind of thing, maybe, or something,
just
or
shooting in the dark, but we're going to say the plan may not be simple.
yeah.
Uh, and part two, maybe they're going to find some new enemies to team up with, or maybe some better one. I don't know. Maybe we need some help from somebody. Help. So anyway, yeah, that's all I got. That's worse than what you had. So maybe we should just stick with your stuff to begin with, because mine were terrible.
I mean, if it involves lying and guns and then and money, I'm sure you're gonna make some enemies there, right? I mean, if you're gonna, because obviously they're not flush with cash, right? So they have to go steal some money. So yeah, you might make somebody
And
really mad.
man,
So.
they're not even flush with crackers anymore. I don't know what happened there. So
Well, because they don't matter anymore. I mean,
yeah,
it's.
always sad about that. The crackers should have mattered.
That's right. Especially after this episode where they had to burn through their metabolism, they probably eat a lot of crackers if they had any left. So now they're all gone for sure.
I guess that does explain what happened to the crackers, because it was all Rigel. So
Yeah, as always. Yeah.
as always.
If you want to know where the food shortage is, look to the Hynerian. All right, so that is your homework for next time, and we'll see you then. Bye, dudes.
Later.